This week's guest was world champion, Olympic champion, and world record holder all at the same time. And he was Canadian, the legendary Donovan Bailey. And we'll talk some esports, Joe Tilley sports. Come on up. Today's special guest, he was born in Jamaica, raised in Oakville, a three-time world champion, two Olympic gold medals, ran a time of 9.84 seconds to set a world record at the 96 Olympics. He set numerous world and Canadian records, inducted into the Ontario and Canadian Sports Hall of Fame, the former fastest man on planet Earth. Ladies and gentlemen, a Canadian sports legend, Donovan Bailey. Donovan, welcome to the program, my friend.
Hey Joe, great to be here with you again, man. It's been a while, and it's always I'm always happy when I can speak to a local man like you and myself. I feel at home. I feel at home for sure.
Well, it's awesome. It's a pleasure to have you, and I really want to thank you for taking the time to join us. Now, so let's talk. We're going to begin at the beginning. So you moved here from Jamaica when you were 13 years old. What prompted the move up north?
Well, I didn't move here. I think that sometimes when people have this great conversation, is that they think that I decided something. My parents, first of all, I came to Canada when I was 7, and I went back to Jamaica to go to school. I think I was attending school at boarding school in Jamaica, but my parents came to Canada like every other immigrant in Canada. They come here for better opportunities to make some money, to educate their kids, and all of those things. So I just followed my parents. I didn't move to Canada.
I guess that's what we do when we're that age, right? We kind of follow our parents. So
Absolutely.
Now track wasn't your first choice. I know you went to Sheridan College. You played basketball at Sheridan College, and a pretty good basketball player, from what I understand. Did you have aspirations to be a pro at that point?
What, aspirations to be a pro basketball player?
Right.
Well, of course. I mean, well, first of all, so two things. I ran track in Jamaica. In Jamaica, track and field is like what hockey is to Canada. So every kid
Right.
Participates in some track and field event, whatever that might be. But definitely my first love, still to this day, is basketball. And yes, I had aspirations to be an NBA player, but at that time there was no room in the NBA for a 6'1" power forward.
I guess not. Still not much room for a 6'1" power forward.
Correct.
So, are you a big Raptors fan? Did you follow? Have you followed the Raps all the way along?
Oh, I'm a huge Raptors fan. I mean, it's been, I get to attend games, and I certainly know the management and ownership there, and some of the players, and yeah, I get to go there and watch the great product that Masai Ujiri has put together. I hope that they can come through this year. My money was on them last year in bubble ball for them to go far, but I think that they kind of missed the fans at home. So hopefully
Right.
this year they have conformed to those Tampa Bay fans. I know it's not Toronto, but hopefully we can get through and go farther, go deep in the playoffs. But I am definitely a huge Raptors fan.
Right. It doesn't help when you've got COVID protocol and Nick Nurse, 5 coaches are missing. Uh, Fred Van Vliet, Pascal Siak, Emoji Ananobi, all out of the lineup. But when they lose to a team like Detroit, that makes you think that maybe this team is, got some work to do yet. But
No,
but that
not
was a fun
really.
run.
Not
Yeah.
really. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. When I heard about the protocol, and that basically half the team was going to be playing, you kind of go, okay, it's definitely going to be one of those off nights. I don't even want to watch the
Right.
game, right? Again, the number one thing, as you know, Joe, it's really about the health of all of us, including the players, and if them taking the day off means that they'll be healthy, and we can win some more games going down the road, then I'm all for it. So
Right.
we can lose to Detroit. It won't happen twice this year.
Right. So when you yeah no won't happen again. So you when you were in your track and field heyday, so you got an attack track in here in Canada. You started to make a little bit of an impact, but it came a little bit later in your life, kind of like when you're 20, 21, 22. Is that about the right time when you decided to try it for the national team and sort of really make it your number one priority?
Well, yeah. I mean, well, first of all, I mean, I was working in Toronto in corporate Canada, and I found out very quickly that I'm actually not made to be inside an office. It
Right.
got boring real quick, and I kind of if I mean I was being my authentic self then when I thought that you know. Working on Bay Street's an incredible opportunity to carve out a great career and to make a lot of money. But I really felt I was dying, and maybe I had this physical need to explore a talent, a God given talent that I never really worked at. I mean, it was very easy for me, in school to go and run track and beat people. I was also the best athlete on the basketball team. So yeah, in my early 20s, I decided that well, two things. I mean, my friend Hopeton Taylor and Andre Metivier were trying to make the national team, and so I went to go watch them. And I went to go watch them, and I realized that some of the guys that I used to beat in high school on a regular basis, they were part of our national team program. And I thought, well, I can beat them, so let me just go beat them. And that's kind of how it probably the process was probably that easy, but to get from there to be the fastest man in the world took a lot of work. But yes, the process was very quickly for me to adjust from being a business person to being a full-time athlete.
So aside from your tremendous desire, obviously, and the desire to be on top, what are some of the other factors that led you to where you got? Like, was it coaching? Was it what were the major factors in you know Donovan Bailey reaching his pinnacle?
Well, listen. I mean, every single day I talk about my support system. My parents, my mom and dad were my mentors. I mean, they were the greatest people, the greatest human beings on the planet. They supported me in every single thing that I did, and also challenged me to work hard and to be disciplined and to be focused. I was also blessed to have some amazing coaches, even from high school basketball, high school track. I was surrounded by some amazing people from Queen Elizabeth Park, Sheridan College, and onwards, University of Texas at LSU. So from my high school coach all the way up to Dan Paff, I had some amazing coach. But also, I had a great, like, the friends that I have. I mean, are the same people that I actually go and play golf with today. So the relationships that I had from being a teenager, those are very same people. And so when I talk to kids about them trying to get to where they want to get to, you really need to look around with the people, or look around you and the friends that you surround yourself with, and to see if those people, one, are working their hardest to be their best and challenging you to be your best also. So I mean, growing up in Oakville, the village truly existed. My friends, my family, my coaches, my teachers, every single person was supportive, and every single one of those people said to me in whatever time of my life I was with them, every single one of those people said that I should think limitless, and my accomplishments should be limitless. And so that's why it is, even to this day, I challenge myself, and I'm still a student in all the things that I do in life.
Well, clearly you were paying attention to that advice. So in 1995 is when you kind of really broke on the scene, and that's when you broke the 10-second barrier, and you set the Canadian record of 9.91 seconds. And then later that year, you set up your first world record, I believe, at 50 meters. Is that about
Yes.
the time that people started taking Donovan Bailey seriously at the international stage?
Well, they started taking me seriously in 1994, but I think that it was not as serious as they wanted to be. I think that there was always, in track and field, it's very much like golf. Sometimes you have an athlete that comes on the scene and gets hot, and they may get hot for 3 or 4 races. But the fact is that that when I left Oakville and I moved to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, to to be trained by Dan Paff, I was definitely committed. I was definitely putting the work in. I had adjusted my nutrition. I was getting physiotherapy every day. I was hitting the weights. I understood. I understood that rest, was so important. Because I think that all of us in our 20s feel like you're invincible, so you can stay up days at a time and still be at your very best. So I understood all the simple characteristics that's going to make me really well. So in 1994, I came on the scene. I definitely started to make a splash. But at the end of 1994, I think that my competitors, as well as the world, kind of recognized that there was nothing that was going to stop me, and I was here to stay. So I broke the 50-meter world record indoors. So I broke the 50-meter world record, I believe, in March or April, of 1995, and then I started the assault on the records, on the outdoor records. I believe it was that April or May of that year.
Right. And then, of course, there was Gothenburg, Sweden in 1995, and,
Right.
the World Championships, right? And so the first heat, you and Bruni, well, you both won your semifinal heats. Bruni's time was a shade quicker than yours was. Were you, I mean, you and Bruni knew each other all the way along. You were teammates, and was there any doubt in your mind who was going to win in that final?
Never. There's never been. I mean, I've always, the thing is, you can never do anything without having confidence. There's nothing that you can do in this world. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. No work, no school, no job. No, I knew all along that. First of all, I was ranked number 1 in the world going into Sweden, so it was my race to lose, regardless of how good Bruni was running. And I never, Bruni's my good friend and certainly my teammate on the relay. But at no point whatsoever did I ever feel that I was going to lose to anyone, including Bruni.
So that was what a team. I mean, it must have felt great though to be gold and silver on the podium for Canada. That must have been an incredible
Absolutely.
feeling.
Absolutely. I
Right.
mean, it is. You know what's really funny about 1995 and the World Championships? Glenroy was also running well, and that was our aspirations. Our aspiration was to get on the podium and just have all Canadian flags on the podium. So I mean, again, I told those guys I was going to win anyways. Bruni's like, "Oh, I'm going to win." I'm like, "Yes, I know what you're thinking. That's fine." But I really wanted Glenroy. I really wanted Glenroy to not only make the finals, but to be on the podium, be on the podium. And I think that because I kind of changed the attitude of Canada and Canadian sports and how we're portrayed globally. We're very confident. We train really hard. We're respectful of our competitors, but we train really hard and had high expectations. So I really wanted Glenroy to be on the podium. I knew that Bruni was going to run well, and also we also knew that we're going to crush the world in the relay. So that kind of started both Glenroy and Bruni running tremendous times over their careers, and also the younger guys that came up, Carlton, Robert, Okiki. There was a lot of young guys that came up. So 1995 was definitely, well, it was 94 when we won in Victoria, but at the highest level, 1995, it was just nice to have your teammates there and to be serenaded by the Canadian anthem.
Yeah, it was beautiful. I remember it well. So Dan Pfaff, you talked about Dan earlier. The how much of a role did he play in you developing your own? You developed your own unique system of sprinting. Did Dan play a role in that, or was that something you just showed Dan that this is what I want to do, and he helped you achieve that?
Well, listen, I went to, I was cold when I went to Dan. Cold as in, I was a diamond in the rough. We'll say I'm not cold.
Right.
I was a diamond in the rough.
Right.
No, Dan molded everything. I mean, I think that people here's what's crazy about our sport. I think a lot of times when I have conversations with people, I let them, I compare it to golf. every single person can swing a golf club. Every person, right? But there's only one Tiger Woods. And every single person in this world, every able-bodied person can actually run. But he also, but what it takes is to have a genius like Dan Paff, who molded me, who essentially said to me, Dan taught me how to walk the very first day at practice. He said, listen, your gait is terrible, and you're actually walking like you're driving a car with your foot on the brakes. Now, these are things I didn't even know about. I mean, and clearly, I was not embarrassed, nor was I offended, because I'm hearing it from the master. So Dan taught me. I mean, Dan is one of the best technical coaches that exist even to this day, and so yeah, Dan taught me all kinds of things: rhythm, breathing. He told me exactly what my flight pattern should be. Again, I'm probably talking silly things to people, and they might not even understand it. What breathing means, what the height in which my diaphragm should be, my intake of oxygen in the middle of the race. There's a million things to learn. So yes, I was definitely just a diamond in the rough, and Dan molded me. A ton of hard work. Dan molded me to the point that I understood what it was like to come out of the blocks. Go through the three portions of my race. For sure, Dan absolutely was a huge instrument and instrumental in me being Olympic and world champion. I am blessed with great genes, Joe. I have to tell you that. The two people I have to thank, the two people I definitely have to thank are my mom and dad, because I was blessed with amazing genes, but Dan definitely molded them.
Well, also, and another quality that you had, obviously, is that you were able to learn. Like there's a lot of guys who think they know everything. They're difficult to teach, but it sounds like you went to Dan as like an open slate. Dan, here I am. Do with me whatever you want. I'm going to do what you tell me to do, and you did that, and the results were okay.
Yeah, you know what? Here's the thing. And again, when obviously I'm doing virtual appearances, but I do appearances around the world. I think that sometimes when I speak to parents, I let them understand, how influential a coach is to the success of your athlete. The number one thing that you have to do with that child is to make sure that that child is prepared to learn, and he can definitely put him or her in a position that child is a sponge. And again, I had great support from my parents, great support from my friends, great support all around. So when I got to Dan, I essentially walk in and said, you know what? Yeah, I can run fast, but I know nothing. Because the fact that he can break it down from the first day by actually giving me life lessons in the fact that I am walking wrong. I mean, I'd walked 20 years, 21 years like that. Now, how the hell can a guy tell me that I'm walking wrong? But again, the guru started speaking. I thought, well, I've made a commitment. I've left Oakville. I'm living in Baton Rouge now. I'm going to give this a shot. I am wide open for all the information that this man's going to give me. And yes, with the support system that I had back home and all of that, from him teaching me how to walk day one, to 6 months later when I'm in Paris and London, running with the very best people of that generation. So he knew what he was doing, and so that's why it's always important to prepare your kid to absorb information when they're in front of those great coaches.
It reminds me of the wax on, wax off. Yes, grasshopper. You just do what you're told, and you just do it, right? It's so okay. So
absolutely.
Yeah. And of course, you surrounded yourself with people who would enhance your magnificence, as a great leader once said, right? People
right.
that would.
But I'm saying again, that's very, Joe. That's very important. I mean, listen. I mean, it as a journalist and being in the profession for many, many, many years. I mean, that you get better. I mean, forget about ego. Yes, of course, you want to be the very best, but that if you surround yourself with great journalists or producers or people that are very good in whatever industry that you're pursuing, you'll learn things and you
Right.
get better. So it was no different for me in track and field, and just like it's no different for me in business or in anything that I'm doing. So yes, I'm always again, I'm blessed to have incredible relationships that have lasted years and years and years. And yes, I preach that to people, to people that are doing anything. Go after and seek those people that you aspire to be like, and certainly, you can always learn a great lesson.
Right. That's why we have Vic for a producer, by the way, Don. He's the best. Okay,
Absolutely.
so now on to '96. Now you go into the Atlanta Olympics. You're ranked number one in the world, and there's a little bit of pressure on your shoulders here, I'm sure. Now there's going to be a lot of pressure on your shoulders because now Canada hasn't had a sprinter of your ilk since Ben Johnson, and of course we all know what happened
Right.
in 1988, and we were all on that incredible high when Ben won the gold, and then we just brought crashing down. Did you
Right.
feel extra pressure on you heading into the '96 Olympics? Like you had to do this right, and you had to get this done. Is that what you kind of felt? Was there extra pressure on you because of that?
You know what? I have to say, not really. No, I mean, I don't think that. I mean, like going into '96 was it was another day at the office for me. I mean, what happened with Ben was in '88. The last time a Canadian had won the Olympics was in 1928 when Percy Williams won. So I mean, I knew that, I knew the history. But for me, it was another day at the office. I mean, funny enough, I mean, and I tell this story quite often. My father was there watching. What My father was in Atlanta watching, and my daughter was like almost two. Her birthday is in August, and so my little girl was there in Atlanta, and my dad said to me, Joe. My dad said, "Okay, son, listen. I know I'm here to watch you compete, and I know you have a couple of rounds to go, so I'm not going to worry about that stuff. I'll just meet you at the finals." I'm like, Dad, do you understand that I actually have to qualify per round? So this is what I'm saying about the people that my dad didn't. He couldn't care less. He said, I made some plans to take my little granddaughter shopping or to go get her ice cream or whatever he was doing. And that's all it was for him. He couldn't care less. I mean, and that's exactly what happened. So you're saying I probably had more pressure trying to impress my dad than the nation and the world. Because he was like, oh, okay, listen, I'm not going to be around. I can care less. I will see. My dad came to one race,
See the
and that was the
finals.
finals. That was it.
Well, you know what? Obviously, your dad had as much faith in you as you did in yourself. I mean, at least, right?
Well,
Yeah.
it's taught confidence. I mean, I think that I remember having a conversation with my dad when I was 9 years old, and I was studying, and he said, "Well," and I think I said something like, "Yeah, I need to get some." Like it was a whatever it was. It was maybe I had to get like 70 or something to get an A or some sort of. I don't remember exactly
Right.
what the actual number was. And he said, "Well, you need to study like you're gonna get an A. You need to talk like you're gonna get an A. You need to like you need to. This is you need to embody all this." And I'm 9 years old. I'm wanting to go outside to go play soccer. I didn't again. I didn't want to hear that kind of talk. I mean, every 9 year old kind of go, "Oh, come on, Dad," you know. But my dad had taught me. My parents had taught me from I was young to be confident, but not just to be confident, to prepare myself. And so I knew in Atlanta that I was prepared. I knew that. I mean, I'd gotten an injury just before Atlanta. There's a lot of other things that were going on, but I knew that the race itself, I had full control over. I was prepared. I had Dr. Mark Lindsay with me, who's probably got the best physio, best hands, best soft tissue specialist in the world. Dan Paff, my coach, had great training partners. My dad was in the stands watching with my daughter, and I had a whole slew of friends who took plane, train, and automobile from Canada. There's probably 100 of my friends that were in the stands that came down to watch. So that probably had more pressure than just me getting out there and winning. I mean, winning was something I was used to. I knew what I had to do. So no, there wasn't a lot of pressure. I mean, obviously, in reflecting back, I understood how important it was as a Canadian. But yeah, I mean, as far as pressure is concerned, I mean, I tend to just think about, if they call you up, Joe, and say, listen, just come host the Oscars, man. You kind of go, yeah, I like it. It is definitely a challenge, but I'm going to knock this thing out of the park. You know how it is.
Right, right. Yeah, I'm going to phone Billy Crystal and say, Billy, how do I do this? Right. Right.
Wait, listen, why not? What,
Help me out.
surround
Help me out.
yourself with good people. There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
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 absolutely.
yeah,
Why
yeah,
not?
yeah. Okay, so now, so let's talk about the races your dad missed because they're kind of interesting. Your first in the quarterfinals, you were second in your heat to Linford Christie, who was the gold medalist in '92. Then in the
Mhm.
semis, you were second in your heat to Frankie Fredericks in Namibia. Was that by design? Like I mean, you weren't pressuring yourself too much. You weren't going to blow your, wad, as they say in the quarterfinals and semifinals when
Right.
I know that terminology is not the greatest there, but yeah, you weren't going to go all out there just because you wanted to save a little bit. Is that what you're trying? Is that what you're doing at the time?
Well, yeah, you know what? Here's what happens. You know that you're gonna have 3 rounds, right? I mean, and it's and again, um, professional track and field. We travel around the globe and we compete against each other. So we're competing against each other in 20, 30, 40 countries. So I knew who these guys were. I'd beaten Linford. I'd beaten Frankie. So I knew what their strengths and I knew what their weaknesses were. But it's like one of the things that Dan always talk about is like they don't hand out medals at the 30-meter mark, and they certainly don't hand out medals during the round. So at the end of the day, all I was doing really was kind of getting in my own personal rhythm. One of the things that I do, what I did when I train, I actually never liked to go through tape. So I never, so we videoed, but Dan would go through that by himself to kind of see what I was doing wrong. And then he'd come and tell me. One of the things that I preferred to do was actually get in the race and in practice and actually go through rhythm. So for me, it was just about how I felt. Was I aggressive coming out the blocks? Was my breathing okay? Was my shoulder okay? Was my shin angles all right coming out the blocks? Was my drive phase okay? All of those. Was my acceleration phase okay? So I knew all of those things. So I was actually just going through those mechanics through the round. So I really wasn't concerned with who I lost to or what was going on. I mean, that top two is always going to give you a
Guaranteed.
great lane, which is really
Hmm.
what you vie for. You got to be top two.
Hmm.
You get a great lane, and then when the finals come, you leave it all out, leave the whole wad out there, Joe.
Right, and the technically sound in the quarterfinals, technically sound in the semifinals, so you felt absolutely comfortable. But then we get to the final. Okay, three
Right.
false starts, and then Christie is DQ'd. So did that throw you off? I mean, to me, it's like I watch those the false starts, and I think to myself, Don's got such a great start here in both of the first two false starts, all three of them. You're great coming to the blocks. I mean, I'm thinking this is terrible. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I felt more pressure than you did watching this race, right? I mean, it just felt
I'm
to me
telling
it's
you.
like the weight of the world is on this guy's shoulders. He's got to do this. He's the best in the world. He's got to, and of course, three false starts. Did that throw you off?
Well, first of all, I can say that I probably got more relaxed as the fall starts happened. But yes, I was very upset, very, very upset because I had 2 very good starts. I had 2 very good
Hmm.
starts, and Dan thought that if I had a proper start, then my time should be high 9.6, low 9.7s. I think he said something like he thought that I was able to run 9.71. So I didn't know the
Wow.
time. That's just what he said, and that would have been a beautiful time to run. But yeah, it was absolutely horrible. But I realize again the things that Dan and I talk about in practice. Donovan, if you have a false start, go back in, reset. So it's almost like loading a spring. So I knew that every time there's a false start, go back in, just take some deep breaths, stretch, shake it off, and get back in and getting ready for war. And that's yes, I was very upset about the starts, but then I realized one, my top speed was higher than anybody else in that field. So all I needed to do, although I had a horrible start in the finals, I was the sixth man out of the blocks. I knew that again, I had to be conscious. I had to relax. I had to be patient, and you saw the result.
Right. And after that third false start, and Christie's DQ'd, then the real race, and it's your worst start of the four of them, but you
Yep.
were able to make that up. Now, were you a little bit concerned after that start? I mean, did you think to yourself, oh no? Did you think at any point did you think I've blown it? I'm not going to be able to catch these guys, or did you know?
No, I knew because races because it was been happening. It'd been happening on the professional circuit the entire year. I mean, there were times that Frankie had gotten out on me, and I would just catch him, and sometimes I would let him win. Uh, Linford was the same way. I mean, and also all the athletes that were in the race were all professional athletes. So I saw them, on the professional circuit. So I had seen Otto, I'd seen Frankie, I'd seen Davidson, I'd seen Michael Green, I'd seen all of the guys. So I knew that if I just stayed patient and I stayed relaxed, and that I would get momentum, and that when I hit top speed, I'd pass the entire field. So yes, I mean, I really wasn't worried about that, and I was quite confident I was going to win.
I love that iconic photo of you after you crossed the finish line. It was unbelievable. I don't know. It's kind of one of my favorite, maybe the greatest sports photo in Canadian history, right up there for sure. That
Race
you looked
face.
over,
We call it race. We
you
call it
saw you'd
race
won.
face, Joe.
Race
We
face,
call it
baby.
race
That's
face.
the best race face ever. Was
Absolutely.
that ever? I mean, just awesome, eh? I mean, I can never get tired of looking at that. So what? So you're the Olympic champion, world record holder, fastest man on the planet. What does that feel like when that at that moment? And of course, you drape yourself in the Canadian flag, and it's just like, wow. I mean, a country's cheering you on, and I don't know if it's a little different here than it is in other countries, but wow. I mean, it was just like it was so special for us, especially after what happened with Ben and everything else. And of course, we all wanted to wait that next few hours, make sure it's all clean and the tests come back,
Sure.
right? I mean,
I
we
wasn't
have to,
worried.
right? Yeah, you weren't
Right.
worried. I know you weren't worried, but
No, listen,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
it was
Tell us about
amazing.
that.
It felt, one, I think it's a culmination of hard work. I obviously want to run faster, but that's the athlete in me, because we train every single day to take 1/1000th off our time. But yeah, I felt I hadn't ran. Actually, in truth, Joe, I felt that I ran a terrible race. I felt that the start was bad, and I was telling Dan, I'm like, oh, it's horrible, and he's saying, yes, it's horrible, and we're both looking at each other saying these things while looking and say, oh, by the way, no other human being has ran that fast before. So it was
Yeah,
definitely a thing. It was definitely a thing. But again, I think that it's definitely honored, blessed, and humbled, to celebrate another occasion, where I'm in the living rooms of every single Canadian, and probably every single track and field sports fan around the world. And it's just one of those times that, wherever I go and whatever I do to this day, and I'm sure this will happen until I die, people get to share their incredible memories of what they did that day, to me, with me, and again, I'm definitely blessed and humbled, that day, and definitely every single day from that day onwards.
it was beautiful. I mean, so I just want to look at these numbers here. You were running 12.10 meters per second, 43.6 kilometers an hour, 27.1 miles per hour, Fastest ever by any human being on planet Earth. That's pretty cool. I mean, just that whole thing is kind of that's pretty cool. I just have to say, there's two things that I think are
Yes, thank you.
the coolest sporting achievements there are. One is fastest
Thank
man
you.
on the planet. One's heavyweight champion of the world. And you got to
Yes.
experience one of those things. And our buddy Lennox
Well,
Lewis got to experience the other one, right? So that's pretty cool.
at the same time.
Now, yeah, at the same time. At the same
Right.
time, how
Right.
cool is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Canada rules, baby. Canada rules.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's pretty awesome. Okay, so you're the first man to hold the world title, Olympic title, and world record all at the same time. And then a week later, you hook up with Bruni and Glenn Roy and Robert Esme and the Heat runners Carlton Chambers, and you became the first ever quartet to defeat the Americans in the relay, the 4x100 relay. Another special experience. But by this time, you've been, on top of the world for about a week. Are you coming down from that yet, or were you able to save a little bit for this race? Obviously, a little bit.
Well, you know what, Joe? Listen, it's not even okay. I'm the captain of the team. I'm the leader of the team. I'm the fastest man in the world. I'm the number one athlete on the planet. Now, I got on the podium in Atlanta for the 100 meters, breaking the world record by myself. Now, what better way to celebrate the next week by actually bringing along your teammates to be on top of the podium and to celebrate and do something that no other team ever since 1896, since the advent of the Olympics, had done before. I mean, there was lots of talk that now Carl Lewis was going to jump on the team and there's all of these things that was going to happen. And I just started laughing. I said to the guys, I'm like, yo, listen, just bring me the stick, man. We'll be okay. And the thing is, though, and there's a couple of things. Glenn Roy had not made the finals of the Olympic Games, and Glenn Roy really was physically prepared to make the finals. Bruni did not make the finals, and Bruni, I felt also was good enough to make the finals. So what you had was a team of very upset men. We'll just use that word. We'll just say upset. Mm-hmm. And so when I came in, I challenged them. Pissed?
Right.
No, very pissed. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very pissed. And so when I went back I took a couple of days off to celebrate my 100-meter win. Saw the guys. But then when I went back to camp, those guys had been there for a day or two practicing in the relay. And I'm like, yes, they're pissed off. They know what's at stake. They understand that I already done what I said I was going to do individually. And so the challenge was, are they going to be ready to match up what they're going to do in each leg that they're supposed to run while holding the most precious thing in the world, which is that baton. And so we can get it around and beat everybody. And yeah, it's so good. It's definitely one of my special moments in my life when you can, get successful, be successful, and you're doing that with a squad of fellas that you get along with, that you're friends, that you're competitors with, that sometimes you fight like brothers, but then you make up. I mean, yeah. So it was definitely amazing the second week in Atlanta.
Okay, so normally, almost always, when the 100-meter champion is crowned, everybody just acknowledges the fact that you're the fastest man in the world. End of story. No questions asked.
I know where you're going.
Nobody ever suggests otherwise.
Right.
Unless you're American and you won the 200-meter gold medal and you say, no, I'm the fastest guy in the world, Michael Johnson. And of course, and then the American media jumps on board and they say, yeah, well, you know what? Yeah, I think Michael Johnson, yeah, he's probably really the fastest man on the world. And so what better way to prove it than have a match race? And first of all, before that took place, what did you think when they started spouting off about this business?
Well, listen, first of all, the only time in the history of the world that the fastest man in the world apparently ran the 200 was in Atlanta. It didn't happen before. Did not happen before. And it has not happened since. So I think that one of the great things about what happened in 1997 with the 150 race, I kind of put that argument to rest. So no one ever has to do it again. However, it was a great economic opportunity for both Michael and myself. right?
Yeah.
We first of all, both Michael and I went into foray of ownership. So we have to think about promoting this race and this entire competition with athlete owned. Michael and I wrote each other checks for appearances that were bigger than any other check before. But however, it was never ever going to be a race. If you watch the race 100 times, you'll realize that I took 3 steps. In 3 steps, I was on the inside of them. So in 3 steps, I was already ahead of them. And so it was never ever going to
Right.
be a race. But it was a great economic opportunity, and we certainly have put anything to rest that a 4 and a 200-meter guy has a chance to meet a power has any chance whatsoever to beat a power sprinter that runs 100 meters.
Yeah, that was another one of my most favorite moments because of all the hype and all the BS, quite frankly, that was coming out of
Yeah,
Johnson and the American media. It was just crap, of course. And then that race happens, and you blow him away. And like you said, after 3 steps, the race goes over. You know it.
right.
He knows it. Everybody in the building knows it. And all of a sudden, he's got a hammy, like my hamstring. I got a hammy. I got a hammy. He pulls up with a hamstring injury. What did you think of that?
It
Well,
looks
listen,
that way.
let's see what you thought of that because we have a clip.
In my mind that I
Got a
was the
clip for you.
fastest man on the planet, and this just proved it. I mean, they said I couldn't run a corner, but I always said this is exposing Michael Johnson in his weaknesses in his race. This is just preparation for me to run a couple of twos this year, and I plan on meeting him in his event.
You came out of the turn, you took the lead, you were leaving him 2/3 of the way through the race when he pulled up. Are you disappointed he pulled up, that he didn't finish?
He didn't pull up, he's a chicken. He didn't pull up at all, he's just a chicken. He's afraid to lose. I think what he should do is we should run this race over again so I can kick his ass one more time.
Oh
I would
no.
love to see the rematch. Best out of 3. It'd be awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Well, hey, it might happen.
Yeah.
It might happen.
Well,
You
it could
never
still
know.
happen, right? Yeah.
Well,
I was
yeah.
just
Well,
looking at some of the guys.
there's
Yeah.
definitely talk. There's talk of that, Joe. There's definitely talk of that. I mean, Mike Tyson has this Legends League going on, and yeah, you never know. So I mean, that could be. I mean, myself and Michael, we could throw Linford and Carl in there. We could get some of the old boys. We could put Jerry Rice in there. We could put
Right.
Deion Sanders in there. Yeah, we could do some. The old men can get back together and just for one day and do something.
I would
You
like
never know.
you would get my pay-per-view money for it. I can tell you that right now.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So, okay, look, here I just want to talk about before I let you go. I want to talk about, there's, you've been on record as talking about, racism in this country, and you mentioned before that racism in Canada is racism with a smile. What do you mean by that? I know as somebody who's been in the corporate world in this country, you've experienced racism at a different level, a different type of racism. What do you mean by that?
Well, a couple of things. I mean, Atlanta this year will be 25 years since Atlanta, and I was having a conversation with a guy named Michael Farber who writes for Sports Illustrated, and he asked me about racism, and so because Joe, as you know, I grew up in Oakville, so I'm surrounded by the best of everything. I mean, and my friends are right across the board in every culture. So I'm always comfortable tackling and talking about every topic. I was comfortable then. I am even more comfortable now. So yes, I discussed racism 25 years ago, but I think that there was I essentially got blackballed. It's like, oh my God, Donovan, why would you address racism? Why would you say that Canada is racist? Why do you say that racism exists in Canada? And I'm saying to them because it does. I mean,
Yeah.
Ultimately, I think that it's crazy that we live in a world that you're so ignorant to believe that something, doesn't exist, especially when you're not part of a racialized community. One of the things I found out even back then in 1996, most of the people that were talking about that racism didn't exist were not from a racialized community. So I'm very certain if you talk to a black, brown, green, yellow person, then you'd say, hey, yes, there's something that I've experienced. So I definitely talked about it in 1996. And what I expected then was to have a conversation, because of my platform, was to have a conversation and to discuss some of the things that some of my very teammates had told me about. I definitely did not grow up in the neighborhood where there was police brutality and all those things. But I'm definitely going to listen to my friends when they're telling me that they're getting harassed and profiled. So I definitely want to bring light to that then. Now, circa 24 years, it took that long, and watching a murder on TV, for the world to kind of look at and address these things. And I'm so happy that people that had as big a platform that I had then, the LeBrons of the world, and all the WNBA players, baseball, basketball, football, hockey, musicians. I'm so happy that we're in a place right now that we're at least having a discussion, so we get to a place that there's equality for every single person that walked the face of the earth.
Well, and speaking of equality, and these are some of the points that you've made over the years, and you say Black people and other people of color in Canada are invited into the room to apply for jobs, but that often the show of inclusion, this show of inclusion and diversity is only symbolic, right?
Right.
Another thing you mentioned there, you point out there are 188 top executive and board positions at Canada's big six banks and two large life insurers. Only one is filled by someone who is Black. So you can talk a good inclusion game, right? You can talk that game, but let's see some action here, and and we're not seeing that yet, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying, Joe. I mean, ultimately, I'm always going to align myself with people that are qualified to do work. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know any Black or brown person or any woman that wants the job of anybody else. What they want to do is to be given an opportunity. One, as we talk about in my career in track and field, you have to be qualified and you have to put the work in. But you also want to do all those things and not be excluded because of what you look like or what your religion is, or what your gender is and or what your color is. You want to make sure that if you do the work, you're at least going to come in with a shot to get an interview to actually be seriously looked at for a job. And these are all the simple things that I talk about. Now, I don't think I'm saying something controversial, because to me, that is the basic common sense that we can all have as productive members of society.
Right. Well, and to me it's just facts, right? I mean, you're just stating what is factually true. It's like when you go out there and you run a race, the person who wins the race, we don't go back and look at the tape and go, well, we're not really sure that Donovan won the race. I think maybe Bolden won that race. I think we should look at that again.
Right.
No, I mean, you won the race, right? And so,
but that's what's great, Joe. Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Let me interject for a second. That is what's awesome about sports, right? The Olympics is not the Black Olympics, the white Olympics, the Asian Olympics. It's just the Olympics. It's the place where every single country in the world meet every 4 years, and every single person has an opportunity. It's not a combat sport. You're not trying to fight anyone. It's you, your blocks, and your shoes. So there's an opportunity. That's what's great about sports. That's what's great about hockey. That's what's great about basketball. That's great about football. Certainly, we can deep dive into some of those sports and some of the athletes that's being held back. But in my event and my sport, that's what it's about. You have an opportunity to work. You have an opportunity to put your wares out there, and you have an opportunity to compete against the very best on the planet. And that's really all I'm saying about the corporate Olympians that are out there, or anyone else for that matter, whether it's, academics, availability of scholarships. That's why we do so much work with children and leadership and mentorship, and so that's all of these things are so important for me, because I want to make sure that there is an opportunity if you work hard. First of all, don't complain if you haven't worked. Don't complain if you're not qualified. But if you've done all those things and you're excluded because of who you love and what you are and what your color is, then I've got a problem with that.
Right. And I think we all do. And I think that's reasonable people, I think, have a problem with that. I really like what you say recently, is that this is an interview you did in Australia. You said, we as a human race need to pick up the phone more and talk to each other, experience real conversations again that result in greater respect, trust, and empathy between one another. And I think, wow, that is so awesome. Because
Thank you,
I
Joe.
think we've reached a point here where we got some awareness now, right? Black Lives Matter. We got some awareness. Everything's out there, and so we just got to keep working with this. We just got to keep communicating. We can't let this kind of thing slide. We just can't let it go, right? We let it go, it's going to slip away. It's going to be a problem, right?
For sure, Joe. Remember back in the day when your only mode of communication was either to call and talk to somebody or talk to them, like meet them and talk to them. And I think that listen, I love technology. I think you and I are both enjoying technology right this second. I love technology. I love the fact that we can do this and bring news to the world. But I think that what the pandemic has taught us, though, is that although we definitely should enjoy technology and all the great things that comes with it, as a human race, we probably need to dial back and get back to how we were at our happiest and probably our least. I mean, I remember those days when I was probably I had the least responsibility in my life, but I was the happiest, and so I wasn't as carefree as I should have been. But at the end of the day, the reason I was doing that interview, in Australia a couple of weeks ago, I think that what the pandemic has taught us is that we don't really know. Especially the people in your family, the people in your support system, you don't really know if they're having a bad day. And sometimes a text is not good enough. Suicide has gotten to an epic proportion at a place that it should be. There's a ton of people having a really difficult time with mental health. And all I'm saying is that, one of the things that I've found, as I said earlier, I mean, my friends and I are still friends, the guys that I hung out with from 10, 11, 12, 13 years, 14 years old. Those are still my crew. But we've taken the time out to just say, hey, man, are you good? Like, I think it's so important, especially in these times, to just check in and be a real check-in. Don't send a text. Just say, you good? Call them up, say, yo, man, you good? You had a good day? You had a meal? You slept? And actually make it be authentic. And those are the things that are so important now, because you'll never know what your neighbor or your friend or your partner or your old teammate is going through until you kind of hear that voice. Because the voice never lies. Just like when you meet someone and you talk to them, the eyes never lie.
Right. You can really misconstrue the meaning of a text or an email in a heartbeat.
Oh,
but when you hear the genuineness in somebody's voice, right, and the fact and to know that somebody actually cares, right, and this lack of connection really has a negative effect on all of us. It's a factor in addiction, which I'm well versed in, it's we do what we can, right? We got to continue to do what we can and make this as much of a keep the connection, even though it's not physical. We still need the social connection. We still need to talk to each other, and there are opportunities now where we can meet a guy friend for lunch now. It's starting to open up a little bit, right? And we can
we're
go
doing
for a
okay
coffee.
in Oakville,
yeah, we're doing okay.
Yeah,
I'm in Durham region. Newcastle's good too, buddy. It's awesome. Yeah. So okay,
so we picked some good places. We picked some good places.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is awesome. I gotta have you out here sometime, honestly. So
Absolutely.
now you've hinted recently. I've seen this that you have hinted that perhaps you might be interested at some point, maybe to enter the political arena. Is this possible? Is this a real thing that I've heard?
You know what? Listen, I think that obviously we're in a time where I'm certainly out there and I'm preaching that everyone needs to vote and that everyone has a voice and everyone needs to connect with their member of parliament. And if you're going to make some change, you have to actually have an action plan. Now, I've spoken to the two major parties in the country, and And I don't know what or when I would probably venture into the political arena. But it's something that as I get older, I realize that there's more people asking me to do that than not. And so because I have a platform and because, thank God I have a voice, I want to use that for good. So I'll continue to do this. And then if at some point I go into the arena, I will give you a call and I will let you know, Joe.
All right. I'll be your campaign manager. All right.
No problem.
No. One other little beef I have though about Donovan Bailey is what the hell? You have not received the Order of Canada, and I can tell you something. Along with maybe the hockey gold medals in 2010, those are pretty special. The men's and women's hockey gold medals in 2010, pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
I personally think that the biggest single sporting event, in Canadian history, the most important one was you winning the 100-meter gold medal in Atlanta in 1996. And this, and the way you've done, made us all proud, and the way you've done Canada proud, and to me, it's like, I can look at a list of who has the Order of Canada and go ahead of Donovan Bailey. Ahead of Donovan Bailey? Are you kidding me?
Yep.
So anyway, that's where I want to go with that. I gotta I want to get
Joe. Listen, I don't make the selections, and I'm very certain that maybe I pissed off someone that's making the selections. I don't know how much. I mean, if you're the greatest in the history of your event, and you're the best person that ever walked the face of the earth. I really don't know what other qualifications
what else you can do. I should have done more. I should have done more.
Yes, yeah. You know what? I should have gone and represented Earth. I should have gone across to a couple other planets, and maybe if I became the best ever in the universe, and there was proof that there's other human beings on other planets, and I raced them and I won, maybe. But I don't know. I think it's funny too.
No.
It's funny.
You know what you should have done is you should have had the race with Michael Johnson, and the deal was that you had to run on water.
I don't know how good a swimmer he is.
You still want to be
horrible swimmer. I can't.
All right. Well, that's my pet peeve. I'm also trying to get Herb Carnegie and Bernie Nichols in the Hockey Hall of Fame. So we're working on that one.
Oh
too.
yeah, that would be great.
I want to thank you again, Don, for being on the show today. As a result of being a guest on Joe Tilley Sports, we've got a foursome for you from Club Link. Remember that we're all in it together. And when we come back, we're going to delve into the world of esports, and we'll have some other notes. All right, Don, thanks so much. Appreciate this.
Joe, great to chat with you. Take care.
Promotional consideration provided by Club Link. Club Link. One membership, more golf. Do you realize that 80% of golfers enjoy country music?
Really?
No, but 100% of golfers enjoy timely play. And that means being ready when it's your turn. Bring enough clubs to make a shot when you go to a ball that's away from your bag. Leave your clubs in an advanced position, so when you move on, you're not going backwards. Remember, we're all in this together. Addiction Rehab Toronto, Toronto's #1 alcohol and drug treatment center, saving lives, reuniting families. The only treatment center in the province to offer medical detox, treatment, sober living, and lifetime aftercare all in one place. Our unique and specialized programs are designed to equip our clients with the tools to successfully lead a life of dignity, respect, and purpose. Let us help save your life or your loved one's life. Call today for more information or to facilitate an intervention. 1-855-787-2424 or visit addictionrehabtoronto.ca. Joe Tilley Sports is brought to you by COSA, Central Ontario Standardbred Association, providing a united voice for harness horse people racing at Ontario tracks. Check out your benefits today at COSAonline.com and check out COSA TV on Facebook and YouTube for all the latest harness news and live action updates. Live racing year-round. Go to hpibet.com for all your wagering options. Become a member today, and your first bet is free. That's hpibet.com.
Okay, esports might be the fastest growing of all sports anywhere. And some of the people out there might be like me, and they might be asking, what the heck are esports? Well, today we're going to find out exactly what esports is all about, because joining us is the co-founder of the Alberta Esports Association, Victor Lee. Vic, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
So, okay, for the layman here, like me, for the average guy who doesn't know a lot about esports, fill us in, please. What is esports all about?
Sure. So the E in esports stands for electronic, right? So esports is electronic sports. It's a form of competition with multiplayer video games. So while not necessarily comparable in terms of physical demands, certainly, but esports does share a lot of similarities to traditional sports in terms of competition, community, culture, and the camaraderie. And likewise with the infrastructure and the operations of the industry at large. And so early esports, if you can remember back to the arcade days, you might remember games like Street Fighter.
Oh, I remember that.
Play with another human being for the first time.
Yeah.
But esports really kicked off into the mainstream in South Korea in the 2000s with a game called StarCraft, which was actually televised on TV. It filled stadiums at the time. But those grassroots level esports that have existed for the last 2 decades have really started to grow and gain a lot of momentum here in North America over the last 5 to 7 years.
So now we're looking at some of the video that we used to see before the pandemic, of course, and some of the events that you guys put together out there in Alberta. I know that they're building a facility here in Toronto, and the Weekend, who performed in the Super Bowl, you probably know who he is, yeah. And Mitch Marner, others are involved in this venture. And it sounds like it's kind of a big deal. Tell us about this.
Yeah, absolutely. So Overactive Media, that's providing those photos there. They're a huge national leader within the space. But the development of the stadium is certainly a significant step forward for esports in Canada. Esports as a whole is a global billion-dollar industry, with Asia leading over half the market. But certainly the global audience for esports is nearly 500 million viewers. And so if we look at recent events, like the 2019 Super Bowl, as an example, had about 98 million unique viewers. The 2019 League of Legends World Championships had 100 million viewers, over 100 million, beating out the Super Bowl. And to kind of tie in sports and traditional sports even further, the League of Legends World Championships in 2017, held in Beijing's Bird's Nest Stadium, the Olympic Bird's Nest Stadium, was also used for esports. So to see that kind of activity happening here in Canada with this stadium in Toronto is certainly a huge step forward for esports in Canada, as well as paving the way for further investments and pursuits within the esports space across the country. So I'm really excited to see where this goes. It's hard to believe how far esports has grown over the years. Relative to the rest of the world, it's still an emerging industry here in Canada, but I'm certainly excited to see ourselves taking the first steps to entering this space.
So tell us about the esports performers. Like, what makes a guy a star in esport? How do you differentiate between somebody who's a superstar in the sport and somebody who's just kind of okay?
Yeah, there's certainly, amateur levels, and there's also professional levels. So if you really look at, traditional sports, you might play in minor leagues, your grassroots clubs, social clubs, student groups, and student teams. And much of that infrastructure more or less exists in the esports space. You can go and you compete in community level, local events. But if you get recognized, sponsored, and if you're talented, you can compete at nationally recognized levels and find opportunities to find yourself sponsored by professional esports organizations. So much like traditional sports, the top performers tend to be differentiated from the rest of the crowd with outstanding reflexes, strategic thinking, planning, and just overall talent within the space. So it's very comparable to other non-physical activities like chess and poker, where there is a significant, degree and tiers of skills within this space. So it's it's certainly very exciting.
So now, are there Esports Scouts? Are there, where do you get the sponsorship from? First of all, are they just game sponsors, or are there all kinds of sponsors? And do they have scouts that go out there and find this talent?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, unlike traditional sports, right now with esports, because it's happening so quickly, and it's sports has a lot of time to really develop the ecosystem and the infrastructure in place to create those professional pathways and development opportunities for players. When you look at traditional sports, you had minor leagues and school teams and college teams, coaching opportunities, access to scholarships, performance development opportunities. All those things are slowly happening within the esports space, and it's starting to pick up, so it parallels that of traditional sports. But right now, oftentimes, certainly there are scouts, but oftentimes with professionals in esports, they usually perform quite well, get themselves recognized, create personal branding for themselves over social media, and really distinguish themselves from the rest of the crowd in order to receive that sponsorship opportunity. And to kind of bring this home, because I am Albertan, I do want to give a shout out to two fantastic Alberta esports professionals. There's Shifter, who's a League of Legends professional. He's from my hometown in Edmonton here, and I actually went to university with this guy. And he was sponsored down in the US. And you might get a kick out of this, Joe. If you're familiar with the P1A visa down in the US, that's the visa for internationally recognized athletes to compete in the US. But with esports, how do you recognize a professional gamer, a professional esports athlete? And so what they ended up doing was they repurposed the P1A visa for esports athletes. And with Shifter, he was actually the very first esports professional to receive that P1A visa as a pro gamer. And there's also a friend of mine who grew up here in Fort Saskatchewan in Alberta, a Super Boom fan, who is a top Super Smash Brothers player who got sponsored and then moved out east to you out there in Toronto.
Well, we're glad to have him here. So now, if you go to the States on a scholarship, so that's starting to happen now. So there's going to be these programs at universities competing. Is that happening now? Is there already competitions between various colleges?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the entire collegiate esports space is starting to develop, certainly. Even when we're working here in Alberta, we're connected and partnered with the Alberta Colleges Athletic Conference, which is the governing body for colleges here in the province of Alberta, to really sanction and bring esports into that same tier of sports, to provide these players with their career pathways, with scholarship opportunities, to really support the development of their talent and as players. So it's all happening, and it's happening quite quickly. And it's exciting to see it happen in Canada.
Well, I know your partner Brad Jones is teaching esports at the collegiate or university level. That's pretty cool.
That's right, actually, yeah. So myself and Brad, the Alberta space just kicked off their first accredited academic program for esports at Mount Royal University. It's for the business component of esports. So Brad and myself were two of the first generation of instructors for this program, teaching it at Mount Royal University. Oh yeah, there's there's our kickoff event with ACAC right there, with the championship belt. We just kicked that off just last semester. So it's really right, gym night there.
And we've also seen some of your video from some of the events you had before before COVID hit, and you were able to get together and have some of the. But it seems to me that if there's a sport that can be kind of a pandemic resistant, that this would be one of them, wouldn't it?
Yeah, certainly. We've seen a lot of growth in esports, especially during the pandemic. It's been essentially pandemic and recession-proof for the most part. A lot of the activities were simply repurposed and restructured for an online environment. And because we're in esports, we really had the privilege to do so. And because of that, that also gave us a lot of opportunities to work with schools, post-secondary institutions, athletic associations to provide some activity for these students who are no longer able to compete in traditional sports, but are able to do so online with esports. So that certainly has helped us during this time. One of the great sayings that I have right now with gaming in general is that it allows everyone to remain physically distant, but maintain socially close. That's one of the biggest advantages for gaming and esports right now.
Yeah, which is exactly what we need in these times. That's for sure. So in addition to being, Yeah, in addition to being heavily involved on the business side of it, how do you consider yourself as a player? Where do you rank yourself? Are you considered a top amateur, middle of the road,
For
a
me, wow, okay.
semi-professional?
Yeah. So I actually, that's how I got my start. When I was here in Alberta, there weren't any tournaments 2 decades ago, right? 15 years ago. So Brad and I, we decided to bring the tournaments here. We started to run events because we were competitors at the time. So we were running these events. We were competing. I played Super Smash Bros. Melee for anyone of your viewers who recognize that game. I would go down to Las Vegas for the Evo Championship Series and play in Mandalay Bay there and compete in the Fighting Games Championships. So it's a lot of fun. Although I was certainly not one of the top players, but one of the top players here in the province of Alberta. But that's how we got our start, and we've been running events over the last 15 years up to this point. But certainly 15 years ago, we had no fantasies about esports really getting to the stage that it's gotten. So to be able to sit back and to experience the growth of this industry from really humble beginnings to the billion-dollar size of this industry now has been really exciting.
Okay, so what is the sky the limit on this? Where's the potential here that you see now?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, people thought gaming was a fad or a trend when it first came out, and it certainly had a couple of near misses there of dying. But video games are here to stay, and people are competitive by nature, I feel. There's a lot of sports fans that are out there. There's a lot of esports fans out there, and so I think, I think this is just creating a whole new space. It's really the sky's the limit, and unlike traditional sports, esports can always freshen up with new titles, with new games, with new releases. You know, we're on Mortal Kombat 11 now, right? It's Street Fighter 5.
Wow.
It's, but in traditional sports, you're never going to get Hockey 2 or Volleyball 2. So because it's always changing, I think it's always going to be able to create new fans with new titles, with new releases, and it's going to be really exciting. Certainly the sky's the limit for sure.
What are the biggest games? What are your favorites?
Sure, yeah. So I got my start with Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo GameCube. That's one of my favorites. But certainly some of the big ones among them are first-person shooters like Overwatch, Call of Duty, CSGO. There's big MOBA titles, multiplayer online battle arenas like League of Legends, Dota 2. Those are significant. There's even esports. So you can play soccer with cars called Rocket League. And there's also some really great high-intensity games like StarCraft, which is most considered to be the grandfather of esports, the one to really kick things off. So, and that's still alive and strong as well. So it's there's a lot of great titles out there. It's there's multiple different genres. So just like in traditional sports, when you say winter sports, that means a lot of things. It could be hockey, it could be curling, it could be luge. And if you look at esports, it's the same idea. There's a game really out there for everyone.
Even the old timers league, perhaps. I was pretty good at Atari back in the day.
Hey, I mean, Tetris is still being played these days. That is like a game that has aged beautifully, and people are still competing in that. So,
yeah, and nobody could beat me at Pong either. So,
let's bring it back. Let's bring back Pong tournaments.
Well, listen, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us, Victor. Good luck with Alberta Esports Association, and yeah, it's awesome. And you know what? Maybe we'll bring you back from time to time to do updates when there's a big event. We can kind of handicap that for us and things like that. Sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks again, my friend.
Thank you so much. Awesome.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All right.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the epic Joe Tilley Sports Contest is underway. We're giving away 12 Mitch Marner t-shirts. Yes, we are. And 3 beautiful color prints. Now, all you have to do to enter is invite 10 or more friends to Joe Tilley Sports on Facebook and subscribe to Joe Tilley on YouTube. We'll notify the lucky winners. 1 t-shirt or print will be handed out each week. Good luck. Time now for our weekly sports analytics segment. Here's Kwame Bryan.
My name is Kwame. I'm a developer ambassador at Elgrand. It's a great honor to bring the matchup for today's show. We have here Donovan Bailey and Audrey DeGrasse, great Canadian athletes and Olympic champions. One has a gold, one is going to have a gold soon. Also, great to see that you had esports on, something that I definitely have a great passion and interest in. And see you next week. Bye for now.
Yes, Kwame, Canada has indeed produced some incredible sprinters over the year. Harry Jerome was another one. And I know you love the esports interview with Vic. That is definitely right up your alley. All right, time for my COSA Swiss pick of the week. Last week, I took the number 3 horse, Somewhere North, in Friday night's 10th race at Mohawk. The daughter of some beach somewhere had won 4 of 5 heading in. Anthony Hahn took this 4-year-old mare to the front, and she cruised from there. My record is now 1 win, a pair of seconds, 2 thirds, and a fourth. This week, I'm going to go with the number 6 horse, Pickles on Top, in Friday night's opening race. Yes, this filly is owned by my brother and his partners. She's coming off an impressive win at Western Fair, and she should get the job done here. A reminder to visit Costa TV on Facebook for all the latest harness news, and go to hpibet.com for your wagering options. Well, the Leafs are now the second choice to win the Cup in the latest odds from Bet Online. Best record in the NHL, despite losing Austin Matthews for a period of time, Freddie Anderson, Jack Campbell, Jake Muzzin, and others, all missing times with injuries. This team has been unbelievable. Serious depth here on this team this year, folks. And off to their best start in 85 years. They shut the Oilers down in back-to-back games, outscoring them 13-1 in a 3-game series. Now, that shows commitment to the process, and it shows that this team has some very good coaching. All right, the Raptors, talk about shorthanded. The Raptors were whacked by the NBA's health and safety protocol. Starters Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, all out of the lineup, as were Patrick McCall and Malachi Flynn. Coach Nick Nurse and 5 members of his coaching staff also missed the game against Detroit. The lowly Pistons beat the Raps by 24. Well, that's what happens when you got nobody to play, right? Mike Weir darn near notched his first victory on the Champions Tour. Unfortunately, Weir bogeyed 2 of his last 3 holes, while Kevin Sutherland birdied 2 of his last 3 to pull out that victory. Weir will now get himself for the Masters coming up next month, but a nice tournament by Mike Weir. It shows that he's back in form, and I think we'll hear lots more from Mike on the Champions Tour. Good to see. Well, our weekly Joe Tilley Sports Contest is heating up. We're giving away 12 awesome Mitch Marner t-shirts and 3 collector sports prints from the talented artist Rob McDougall. You can enjoy all Rob's work at robmcdougall.com, and all you have to do to enter is subscribe to Joe Tilley on YouTube. That's it. 1 t-shirt or print will be handed out each week. We'll notify the winners as well as call their names on the show. Good luck to y'all. Today's winner, by the way, is Jim Neely of East York. Congratulations, Jim. A reminder once again to subscribe to Joe Tilley on YouTube. You don't want to miss all the latest news. We close with a look at the folks who make this show possible. These are all good friends, trusted business associates, and I encourage you to support all of them. A reminder that this week's show is also available on the Spanglish Network and Zingo TV. Thanks once again to Donovan Bailey and, of course, Victor Lee. And thank you for watching. See you next week when Canadian hockey stars Cheryl Pounder and Sammy Joe Small join the show. We'll see you then.
Get Aldo at RE/MAX Crossroads. Do you want to buy or sell a home? Could 31 years of real estate experience help you? Why not speak to an amazing team that loves to overpromise and overdeliver? Call 416-GET-ALDO or visit www.getaldo.com to find out what next-level real estate looks like. RS Demolition and Excavation has extensive experience with complete teardowns and interior strip-outs. Looking to build a custom home? RS Excavating Services has the experience you need to build in established neighborhoods. For the highest level of quality and cost-efficient results, we provide innovative demolition solutions completed on time and on budget while ensuring our number one priority, safety. Call 647-852-3006 for an estimate or visit rsdemolition.ca. Brian Gribben Insurance Planning, helping you solidify your financial future.
At BGIP, what we do that's unique in the marketplace is we show people how to spend and enjoy their money in their early years of retirement without the fear of running out. Also, we're able to do this without you having to change financial advisors. Please look us up at bgip.ca today, and let's book a 30-minute phone call to see how we can bring value to you and your family in your planning.
Call Brian today for all your retirement needs. We did. 905-686-5678. Goldline Resources, discovering high-grade gold in Sweden. Goldline Resources owns a prospective portfolio of 4 high-grade gold exploration projects located on the Goldline mineral belt of north-central Sweden, and 1 gold exploration project in the Skellefteå belt of north-central Sweden. For more information on how you can invest in this new initiative, go to goldlineresources.com or call 1-800-858-9710. Goldline Resources can also be found on the TSX Ventures Exchange as GLDL. Looking for an advantage in choosing your investment options? Belmont Venture Capital will provide you with the best up-to-date opportunities in the mid-cap and junior sector. The company was formed 12 and a half years ago and is spearheaded by 2 seasoned veterans of the financial markets with over 80 years combined experience. Go to BelmontVentureCapital.com today for the latest hot picks on the market, and don't forget to sign up for the newsletter. BelmontVentureCapital.com.